We're not going to resolve them today. They'll be resolved in tomorrow's daf. But we'll stop over here for today just to share with you a short idea on the parasha. So Parashas Tetzaveh begins in a fascinating way. The pasuk says, "V'ata tetzaveh es bnei Yisrael," you shall command Klal Yisrael, "V'yichu elecha shemen zayis zoch kasisla ma'or la'alos ner tamid." So ultimately, and the pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu, you shall command the Jewish people, they shall bring to you shemen zayis zoch, pure olive oil, kasis, crushed, Lama'or, to produce light, lahalos ner tamid. So again, in general, the kasha over here is why is the command? This is the command to bring pure olive oil. You have to use virgin olive oil for the menorah. So of course, the fundamental shaila is why is this here? The menorah. This is Parashas Tetzaveh. The menorah was discussed already in Parashas Truma, right? So why is this here? Okay, that's a kasha. But the other question that is mentioned on this pasuk is there's a fundamental syntax issue. Generally, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu, how does it work? How does the pasuk go? God speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu. What does he say? Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe leimar. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, this is very unique. Because how does the parasha open? V'ata. Hashem says to Moshe, and you. No mention of Moshe Rabbeinu's name. So what's the pshat? So the Gra says something very beautiful. The Gra says that amazingly enough, listen to his lashon. Apirov chal zayin adar yom pitiraso shal Moshe Rabbeinu beparshas v'ata Tetzaveh. The way the calendar works is that more often than not, 7th of Adar, which is the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, falls out on the week of Parshas Tetzaveh. So the Gra says, therefore, v'korei adoros merosh yada ki b'zayin adar yistavik Moshe Rabbeinu v'alkein lo niskar shmo beparsha hazos. So amazing. So the Gra says, because more often than not, the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu falls out on the week of Parashas Tetzaveh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu obviously again knows everything, and therefore Moshe Rabbeinu's name, right, is not mentioned at the opening of the parasha, representative of the fact that he dies. That this week is usually the week of his yahrzeit. A fascinating and beautiful idea about how the Ribbon Shalom is the great cosmic choreographer. But perhaps there's another yisod in this as well. Listen, we often assume that the greatest metric of accomplishment is what you do for yourself, right? How much Torah I learn, how much chesed I do, how much tzedakah I give, and that is important. Personal accomplishment absolutely is a metric of personalistic success. But there's another metric of accomplishment, which is how much do you enable others to grow as well? What is it that you bring out in other people? Facilitating the growth of others is an incredible value within Yiddishkeit. The first person to ultimately teach this idea was Avram Avinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises Avram Avinu that he's going to be an Av Hamon Goyim. He's going to be a father of a multitude of nations. Now, if you think about this, right, then Tziv, others comment on this. They say, but what does it mean? Right? Avram Avinu, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says your children are going to become like the stars, like the dust of the earth, like the sand on the sea. But if you look at it, Avram Avinu never becomes, right? Klal Yisrael never becomes that numerous. Klal Yisrael never becomes that voluminous. So what's the pshat? But Avram Avinu was the one who enabled spirituality in the entire world. Every major faith traces itself to an Abrahamic ancestor. Avram Avinu is the father of all faith-based societies. The greatness of Avram Avinu was not simply what he did for himself, but what he enabled in other people. What do you bring out in others? How do you facilitate the growth of others? What do you do for other people? And Rabosai, this is such a tremendous yisod. You know, we live in such a selfish society. Everything is about us. So I'll say, if I told you how much of my day is spent with complaints of people whose needs are not being met. My needs are not being met. Okay, sorry. That's how every conversation starts, right? Sorry, right? So sorry. Needs right. That life is about your needs being met. Where does that selfish attitude come from? That it's like kala olam nivra b'shvili. It's all about me. Yes, of course, we all want our needs to be met, but that's not the essence of life. The essence of life is not me. the essence of life is, what can I do for the other? How can I facilitate growth in the other? What can I do for the other? And perhaps that's the pshat. The Bible say, when you go and you look at the pasuk, what does Hashem say to Moshe? Moshe, V'ata Tetzaveh es b'nei Yisrael. Moshe, your greatest accomplishment is not being Moshe. Your greatest accomplishment, V'ata Tetzaveh es b'nei Yisrael. That's your accomplishment. What can you do? What can you bring out in the klal? Because if you could facilitate growth in the Jews, V'yikchu elecha shemen zayizach, you allow them to access their oil. And when they access their personalistic oil, kasis lama'or laha'alos ner tamid, they will create incredible light. Perhaps HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm not going to include your name over here. Because when ultimately, again, it's your name, when it's your name, then people will think that the essence of life is becoming a Moshe, is the actualization just of your own personalistic identity. And that's the metric of success, your accomplishments. Moshe, we're omitting your name. Because sometimes the greatest things you do in life are not the things you do for yourself, but rather it's when you allow yourself to become anonymous, when you just become an ata, and when the focus shifts from you to what you could do for the other, then the ata tetzaveh es b'nei Yisrael. When I could stop thinking about myself a little bit and focus on what I can do for the other and how I could enable growth in the other and bring out greatness in the other, that's when beautiful, luminescent holiness occurs. That's when you could allow other people to discover their inner oil, their inner potential, then you know what happens? Laha'alos ner tamid. That creates great light in this world. It is important to focus on our own accomplishment. But just as important as our own personal accomplishments is how we could enable growth, how we could enable self-actualization, how we could enable incredible and beautiful accomplishment in the other. Because when we could allow others to become great, that is when we produce the most beautiful ner tamid, the most beautiful light in this world. I will say, shkoyach, good Shabbos, another incredible week, and wishing everyone a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh. Everyone Zoom, have a great Shabbos, everyone.